pediatric care.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Welcome to Daytime Ottawa here on Rogers TV. A great show ahead. Among other guests here on the show, Tony Greco on the show talking TG athletics. And if you have a young, or it actually doesn't even matter, young, old, doesn't matter, whatever demographic, any elite athletes within your circle of family and friends, he's got some great advice for you. Also, Jeanette Ewan back on the show to talk about some of the best gift ideas for 2024 and for everybody on your list, no matter what age. And if you're like me and you have trouble staying hydrated, my first guest is here to help. We're going to talk about that. Amongst other things, I am joined by Melissa Bufunos. She is a certified holistic nutritionist and owner of MB Performance Nutrition. Welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
This is a good time of year to have you on the show because, right, we're going into the cold winter months and everybody, all of a sudden, our immune systems get affected, right? More than I think any time of year. And we're going to start talking a little bit about what? Vitamin D, vitamin C, hydration. Where do you want to start here today, Melissa?
Let's start with vitamin C.
Okay.
Because that is the vitamin that's synonymous with cold and flu season, right? So when you hear vitamin C, Derek, what comes to mind?
Certainly orange juice, right? Oranges, orange juice, any sort of citrus comes to mind. I mean, I'm certainly fortunate in my position as a host for many, many years. I know that there are probably some sources that will surprise a lot of people that you're going to talk about today, right?
That's exactly it. So if you take a look in front of you, I brought a nice collection of locally grown, these are all Ontario grown pieces of produce that are available right now. So November, December, January. So take a look here. These are ones that are high in vitamin C. Is there anything here that surprises you?
Cabbage surprises me.
Yep.
I knew about peppers. Certainly squash surprises me a bit as well, actually, and onion. I mean, I would say out of all of these, those are probably my biggest surprises.
Exactly. So let's start with the cabbage. So cabbage, actually, depending if it's green or red, has anywhere between 40 to 60% of your daily vitamin C needs.
Really?
Which is about the same as one of those medium oranges. So about a cup worth, and you can do so much with a cup of cabbage.
Yeah.
So great way to do that. These broccoli sprouts that are right here, a cup of those is about 135% of your daily value. Yeah.
Holy cow.
So the strawberries are about 16%.
Okay.
The leeks and the onions that you see are about 12%. And then we get into potatoes. You want to keep the skin on. The skin has some of that vitamin C, but up to 30%. So these all have a surprising amount of vitamin C. And like I said, they're locally grown, whereas oranges aren't.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to keep costs down and you want to, support locally grown farms and greenhouses, that's the way to do it.
Well, what I like about this is that, we always sort of turn to supplements because we don't think we can get enough out of many of the produce that we have available. And just to hear some of those percentages, I'm really surprised to hear those numbers. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, let's move over here. What have we got over here?
This is our gut health little section.
Okay.
So why we're talking about gut health with immune system. So did you know that 70 to 80% of your immune cells live in your gut?
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Okay.
Which now makes me think I am not eating. I'm not eating as well as I should be.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we think of gut health, the buzzwords right now are prebiotics, probiotics. They're in everything, like sodas and whatnot. Even processed snacks are starting to hide in probiotics to try to make them healthier.
Okay.
But again, we don't need to use the supplements. We can get it from food sources. So
Melissa, what's the difference between a prebiotic and a probiotic?
Great question.
I always mess those up.
Yeah. So the probiotics are those healthy bacteria that are in our gut. The prebiotic is the food for the probiotic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to eat prebiotic foods to feed those good bacteria that are living in our gut. So you're going to see some overlap here. We still have our onions and leeks. So those are prebiotics. So those are going to feed the good bacteria in your gut. They're also giving you the vitamin C that we just talked about.
Nice.
And the garlic as well. So, onion, garlic, put that in everything.
I know.
Right? All your cooking.
And why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right? The flavors alone, right? And just the smell smell is so nice.
And then some other prebiotic stuff, you're going to get like quinoa, oats, barley. There's some prebiotic fibers in there.
Okay.
When we're talking about probiotics, it's fermented foods.
Right.
So, kombucha comes to mind, kimchi, stuff like that. But I also brought pickles and sauerkraut. But hot tip, the normal pickles that you get at the store that are soaked in vinegar aren't the ones that we're talking about.
Okay.
So you need the ones that are fermented, and they actually don't contain vinegar.
Really?
Yeah.
So would it say on, or you just look on the ingredients so that you know you're getting the right one?
That's exactly it.
Okay.
So these ones are usually found, or always found, in the refrigerator section. And most of the time you're going to find them at like a health food store versus a conventional grocery store. But if you're going up and down the pickle aisle, all of those ones will have vinegar in them.
That is good to know. I had no idea, because I honestly thought that they were a fermented food because of the vinegar.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on over here. You brought some dairy products and some non-dairy with you here, right?
I did. And what do you think these foods have in common here?
I'm going to go vitamin D.
Are you guessing that because we said it had vitamin D, or you know it?
No, I know it. I know it.
Okay.
But some of these products are now fortified with vitamin D, right?
Yeah. So the milk is fortified with vitamin D. So as long as you're getting a milk that is fortified with vitamin D, it has about 25% of the daily value in 1 cup.
Okay.
Soy milk might have a bit less, like 10% or more, depending on how much fortification they're doing.
Right.
And the reason why I brought mushrooms, so mushrooms are an interesting one. So a lot of people say mushrooms are one of the highest vitamin D food sources, but when I was digging into this, it turns out you need the mushrooms to be either exposed to UV light or the sun. And most of our commercially grown mushrooms are grown in the dark.
Yeah. I visited a mushroom farm and was really surprised. It, the whole thing is in absolute darkness.
Yeah. So it's hard to say, you can't just go to the grocery store and say, are these grown in the light or not?
Right.
Maybe the companies are going to start putting that on there if they're doing it. But there's some really cool research emerging of companies starting after they're grown in the dark, exposing them to UV light.
Interesting.
So if they are exposed to UV light, they have over 100% of your daily vitamin D. But if they're not, they have almost no vitamin D.
Okay. No, that's good to know.
But that's not to say, if you don't know, you should still eat mushrooms because they're healthy.
Yeah,
right?
They're still good for you.
Yeah.
I see eggs here again.
Yeah.
That's another one, I guess, that is fortified with vitamin D.
So the yolk has about 5% of unless they're fortified. Salmon, so if it's farm salmon, has about 60%. If it's wild, it has about 100%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Let's move over to our next little area here, because we're going to talk hydration, right? And I told you I am so bad with drinking water. I'm just not a big fan of it. I see that you've got, and that's exactly what we should all be walking around with. But you're saying that we can stay hydrated with other beverages, right?
Exactly. So I am like an iced girly water through and through water drinker. So when it's winter, I don't want to drink ice cold water. It makes me cold, right? So at the end of the day, will be like, oh no, I kind of forgot to drink water today. So in the winter, I really lean on hot, warm beverages.
Okay.
So you could do this with things like bone broth, even soup. Like if you're having soup for lunch or dinner, that counts towards your hydration intake.
About that. That's right.
But different herbal teas, chamomile, ginger, mint, all of those won't have caffeine in them. So you can have them all day. But if you are a coffee drinker, coffee actually counts towards your hydration.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I've always heard, is it a myth then that they say coffee will dehydrate you?
Yeah, I don't know that it's a myth. It's more like it's just been busted. There's new research that's come out that has shown that you can actually drink up to 4 cups of coffee and it doesn't have the super dehydrating effects.
We've been yapping away here, and I had no idea how quickly this segment went. You were going to actually make a turmeric hot chocolate, but guess what? We're down to 15 seconds
That's what I thought.
in the show.
Yeah.
But will you have this recipe available on your website? Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
MelissaBufumanos.com.
Yeah.
We brought it up on screen there, so go and get the recipe there, because it's, again, one of those delicious drinks you can have that will help hydrate you. We'll be back with more right after this.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Trio Financial Planning, helping individuals and families live today and build for tomorrow. Branton Renovation is pleased to support this episode of Daytime Ottawa. Branton Renovations, Ottawa's award-winning renovations team.
Kids these days, people say we lack initiative.
And technology, that we're all addicted.
Kids these days, we hear that we only care about ourselves. Apparently, we're lazy.
And don't seem to have any sense of independence.
Actually, kids these days are facing a lot.
Because the world has changed, and so have our health issues. Kids these days, we could really use your help. Join CHIO in our biggest fundraising campaign ever to transform pediatric care.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Dustin Design and Drafting, your first step toward building your dream project with a team approach. Daytime Ottawa is proudly supported by Mary's Must Read Book Club. Follow Mary on social media at Mary K. Taggart for her latest book club picks.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Eastboro Designs. Eastboro Designs, designing a bold lifestyle through functionality and beauty.
Welcome back to the show, and welcome back to my next guest. Jeanette Ewan is back here on the show talking about some of the top gifts for 2024, and they are her picks, which means you can be guaranteed that they're going to be absolutely fabulous. Welcome back to the show. Great
Thanks
to have
for
you here.
having me.
We were just talking about Lenore Deek, and I'm going, it's my birthday this week, and my wife is taking me to Lenore Deek, and that's a great, experiences. More and more people are doing that, right?
Especially if you're an adult. For kids, of course, they want gifts, but they wouldn't mind gifts and experiences. But as adults, how much do we really need? And that's a bit of what I'm going to touch on is maybe buying one gift and really thinking thoughtfully about it. And it doesn't have to be tremendously expensive, or it can be an experience. If anyone wants to take me to Lenore Deek, just hit me up on Instagram.
There you go. Jeanette Ewan, at Jeanette Ewan on Instagram. She'd be happy to go with you to Lenore Deek. But doing things like that, even if you buy a gift for yourself, right? I do that almost every single Christmas. It's just a little something for myself. But today you brought a variety of things here with you. What do you want? Where do you want to start?
I'm going to start here, and I do want to mention for members that don't know me, I worked as an editor for years, so I'm extremely particular about things, and I also really look at quality and what design goes into the item. So I'm going to start with my pleasant, happy, wonderful discovery.
Okay.
I spend my Saturday nights at Rona. There's a Rona in Toronto near me as I start to laugh. That has
Saturday nights at Rona.
There's a Rona and a Michael's craft store next door to each other. So I go in, I do my DIY shops. Nice. I'm in heaven. I go in last Saturday and I run into some of my contractor friends, and they're all centered around this new display, and they're just grabbing, and I'm like, what is going on? Tilly Tough has launched. So this is
what they were gathered around.
So do you remember Tilly and Durables?
Yeah.
So a great Canadian company known for indestructible outdoor gear.
Right.
Joe Mimram, who created Alfred Sung and Club Monaco, bought Tilly and now has brought Tilly Tough to Rona. Now, this is such a gap in the industry, and I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but I do a lot of light fabrication and I weld. And things from my Carhartt zippers blowing out to my Wrangler workwear, the straps, the little notions falling off. Yeah. I started buying vintage workwear because I find nothing was lasting. Then I go in, I see this, and I knew why the contractors were getting so into it. The quality is insane.
It's amazing.
This is $69. Look at this hem with the cord trim. Yeah. The quality of the fabric, the double stitching. I also sew things. So this is, I'm trying to explain, I'm singing the praises of something that's going to last.
If you didn't like the product, you wouldn't have brought it on the show.
Not at all.
I know you. You test everything out.
But look, even the bungee cord here, this is going to last. It's going to keep you warm on the job site. It is so well made.
I'm just thinking cottage, clearing brush and things like that, right? If you're doing some work around the house too.
And they've got their shirts, and they've got all the information there of how tough they are. But they've got pants. I'm testing out the pants. I'll get back to you. Okay. But these are exclusive to Rona, and I think that's such a great. Rona's been servicing us since 29 or 39, and such an amazing Canadian company, but they also really, there's like even a contractor's entrance. So for those of us that are, you know, work with our hands and need this gear, this is very, I mean, even look at this pocket. Sorry, I get so excited.
No, I agree, 100%.
When I went to go cash my items out, I did notice this as well. So this is from the Rona Foundation, and you can pick up a toque, and it supports Built from the Heart. So this is a nonprofit that will go give money to other nonprofits that focus on building housing or any project that involves building.
Right, like something like Habitat for Humanity.
Exactly.
Organizations like that. Last time you were on, you were talking Audi, and everyone's probably like, Audi, that's a car company. Why are we talking Audi? We don't have a car here. They come out with some pretty cool stuff, right?
So why I love Audi so much is I race rally cars, and Audi is like the best rally car you can get yet.
Okay.
And I also love because they're the leading purveyor of luxury and design-forward automotives. And as they continue their role in increased sustainability, they've got a great stock of electrical cars, but they also have
toboggans.
So they've done toboggans every year, and last year they are so thoughtful. They did a sustainable toboggan that was made in Quebec.
I remember.
And it was a slide toboggan, and it was under $20.
Yeah.
It's now a collector's item. So this is this year's, and it's absolutely amazing. And I love that you can use this tube year-round. Again, the construction of this is so good.
Yeah, you can tell.
It's got that Audi quality. Like, you are going to go places in this, but it's not going to let you down.
No, absolutely not. All right, let's move along here because I don't want to run out of time. We're about 2 minutes here.
Okay, no problem. Just a few other things. Definitely check your Audi boutique in your Audi dealership. They've got a lot of thoughtful gifts from, I love this mug, and even things you'll notice, the finish on this is matte, so it's not going to slip in your hands. And look, the coaster's built in.
That is cool.
They also have a messenger bag. They partnered with Bugatti, and I should mention Audi's also done a toque, and that is made in Canada.
Nice. We don't see enough of that. You really have to do your research and find it, right? You honestly, it's so hard to find now just off the shelf.
It is so hard to find, but almost everything here is a Canadian company or made in Canada, minus like obviously the tube, but check these out. Canadian company. These are from Sapporo. So for our executive business person, these are amazing compression socks. Now, I've shown their athletic ones before.
Yes.
But they also have dress socks. You go to Sapporo.com.
That's cool.
This is kind of a bonus in your stocking. Instead of just giving regular socks, give a support sock. It will change your lives. Great Canadian company.
Why will it change our lives?
Because the compression, it's going to make your legs feel better. It's going to give you more endurance. If you've got any sort of vein issues, it's going to help push the blood back into you. I started wearing compression socks, I guess, about 10 years ago, and I have such a huge difference. Like, I'm not getting this is like, I hope my mom's not watching this. I'm not getting the same veins that my mom did, and now I've got her.
What are you outing your mother?
Oh my God! I've got her wearing the compression socks.
This is you, and I'm sorry.
So I know they work. Sapporo.com.
But I will tell you, you gifted me some last time you were here. I've been wearing them curling because I told you I twisted my ankle quite badly. Like 2 summers ago, and it's still so. But when I wear the compression socks, a big difference.
Ankle injuries are a nightmare, and with any swelling or anything, it's going to push that all into stop. So definitely something great to check out.
Is this?
Last but not least.
Okay, I wasn't sure whether it was decor or it was.
This is just a theme. So the idea is giving books or anyone who's a collector shop local vintage stores. There's so many great things to buy. Whether it's like an issue of an autographed book, there's so many great bookstores that carry vintage in Ottawa. Just really check the region for collectible items as well.
Nice, I love it. Hey, the good news is my good friend Jeanette here is back for another segment. We have some great gift ideas for everybody on your list. Grandparents, kids of all ages, you name it. We'll be back with that right after this. Don't go anywhere.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Trio Financial Planning, helping individuals and families live today and build for tomorrow. Branton Renovation is pleased to support this episode of Daytime Ottawa. Branton Renovations, Ottawa's award-winning renovations team.
This week on Canada Files, the amazing story of Wes Hall, who was raised in poverty in Jamaica, eventually became a star in the business world in Canada, and is working hard to combat racism.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Dustin Design and Drafting, your first step toward building your dream project with a team approach. Daytime Ottawa is proudly supported by Mary's Must Read Book Club. Follow Mary on social media at Mary K. Taggart for her latest book club picks.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Eastboro Designs. Eastboro Designs, designing a bold lifestyle through functionality and beauty.
We are back with designer lifestyle editor Jeanette Ewan, and now we are talking about everybody on your list because I love what you said in the last segment, by the way, is you don't have to get thousands of gifts for everybody. The idea is getting thoughtful gifts, right? That make a big difference. We're going to start this segment with the grandparents, and my parents are now grandparents. They probably don't want to think about themselves as grandparents because, you know, grandparents name themselves different things now, right?
Yes, I love that.
It's got to be anything but grandpa and grandma, right?
What are your parents?
So my dad is Papa and my mom is Nan.
That's cute.
Papa and Nan, yeah. And then both my parents have been remarried, so it's Papa Larry on my mom's spouse, and it's Nan Rain, my dad's spouse.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
See, grandparents, I think, are the most important, amazing people that we all cherish. And I was talking to some of my friends that are grandparents, and they said during the Christmas holidays, they wish they could have a little more time with their grandkids.
Okay.
And they noticed that, like, their children or their children-in-laws can get very stressed and busy about making everything perfect, and they want to be asked to help more. And they also said crafting. So I know a lot of grandma and grandpas love crafting. So my idea for grandparents is simple. A few weeks before Christmas, give them a day or a weekend, give them a gift card to the craft store, give them some ideas, and they can make their own gift with the kids.
That's a great idea.
Like whether it's a wreath, there's some really great things for making wreaths. I'm doing wreath making with my mom this Friday, so that will be on my social media. And you can use old ornaments or maybe ornaments that you grew up with. So really do that thoughtful, caring thing. Grandparents really aren't looking for gifts. They don't maybe want you to know that.
My mom says it all the time. I've got everything I need. You don't have to get. If I do get her something, it's probably something, an experience, right? Something like that. Or if it's her favorite store or butcher, or maybe a gift card,
that's
right?
a great
for something
idea.
Like that. Yeah.
And I think it's that time, and what also is a benefit of that is that it gives the parents a weekend to run around and do all of their stuff without having the kids there, which is nice.
No, exactly. All right, what are we going to...
This is another great gift for grandparents.
Speaking of compressing things.
For anyone who's achy, this is another great Canadian company, and the product is made in Canada as well, and it's also sustainable. So this is from Magic Bag, a great Canadian company, and this is their new designery compress.
Okay.
So you can get this hot or cold simply by microwaving or freezing, and that will just rest on, an aching tummy, a sore ankle.
Exactly.
This is a great one, and this is a great, really gift for anybody.
Agreed.
And you can go to magicbag.com.
Okay.
Okay, now toys.
I can't believe you brought Rainbow Bright.
Well, I always
Such
like
a
to
good
bring
memory.
something retro.
Yeah.
We love retro toys, and what's so cool is they're all being redone, so kids are rediscovering them, but then the parents enjoy them too. Now, this is from the Loyal Subjects. You can get this at local toy stores. I do believe it's also at Toys R Us.
Yeah.
So how cute is this? It is a kit to dress all the accessories you need to become, the little one can become Rainbow Bright. And then there's Twink, her little buddy, with them too. And their Strawberry Shortcake is back. You can get these little hang tags. I love I always say it wrong. Imaginaire. Why do I have
At the Rideau Center.
Imaginaire at the Rideau Center. I can't recommend them enough.
Yeah.
You can find so many vintage toys or retro inspired toys. There's a little smaller Rainbow Bright.
Yeah.
And then I found this. I just thought it was so cute.
Snoopy.
It's the Peanuts, but it's a lip gloss.
What?
Yes, so I thought that was so kind of cool. Now, speaking of retro gifts, and you said you always get yourself a present.
Yes.
This is my favorite thing to do.
Okay.
buy yourself a vintage toy that you wanted back then in the package and open it. Because everyone's like, oh, you can't open it, it might be worth blah, 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 blah.
No, enjoy it.
Enjoy it. And I find right now on, it's like Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji, a lot of people are selling toys that they thought would appreciate and they didn't appreciate to the level that they did.
Yeah.
Like, I got this Barbie outfit that I wanted forever for $5.
You're so adorable. I love it. I know my mom had old G.I. Joe stuff, right? Outfits and everything, and again, thought it would be worth a fortune, and I think we sold it for like $40 or something like that, right?
But you made someone else's day.
Absolutely. Oh, for sure. When they picked it up, yeah, they were totally psyched.
I'm gunning for the She-Ra Palace this year. My budget's $50.
There you go.
Now, what would you want?
Oh man, you know that I have this thing where I want to start when I retire, buy dollhouses and sort of renovate them.
Why wait for retirement, Derek?
I know you're right. You're right.
Okay, so a dollhouse.
And He-Man was the big thing. My best friend growing up, Gary and I, we had the He-Man collection. Absolutely loved it. And the Adventure People. Do you remember that?
Loved them.
Loved it. That was my whole bathtub experience. Was the Adventure People.
You have to. Okay, you can get the He-Man castle. You can buy it retro, and then you can like soup it up, make it all fancy.
Man, okay.
Or Mattel Creations, which a lot of people aren't aware of. There's Mattel.com or .ca, but there's also a site called Mattel Creations, and they do a lot of limited edition toys. And they have like giant Brick Bear He-Mans. They've redone the castle, and you have to get on in time to get the launch. But it's that exclusive feeling too.
Right,
and the prices aren't astronomical or anything like that, which is cool.
You brought along some books here with you too.
Well, I don't think there's a bigger trend than Wicked right now.
Right. Yes.
So it
looks amazing.
It looks so
good. It really
good.
looks
like the
good.
Sets and everything.
Yeah,
it's so
the
thoughtfully
colors.
done. So check out these books that I'm going to give you.
Okay.
They have from each of the witches. I love these because they're $7.99.
Oh, these are
But
great.
it's also the original Golden Books. So they've redone. Golden Books has redone a bunch of stuff. I just found these on Amazon.
Oh, really?
And bought them for my goddaughter.
Right.
But I also noticed they had like the Golden Books for Taylor Swift, Golden Books for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Really?
Like, it was so fun.
That is great.
But this one I think the kids really will like of any age. And
agreed.
also a great gift for a great value.
Absolutely.
Okay, back to Canadian companies.
Okay.
Again, from Magic Bags. So we talked about them earlier, made in Canada. They also made the Warmy. So check this out. This is a cuddle stuffed toy with the little magic bag in his belly.
So you warm this up?
So you take it out and you warm it up and they can go on. Like for a cuddle bunny. And I love like this is a toy that you will have forever.
Oh,
like,
absolutely. Kids will keep this until
like
it's
soft,
falling
squishy,
apart.
yeah.
We all had one of those, right? Growing up, you had your toy that you just drag. You still have. You drag it around, right? Forever. The eyes are starting to fall off. The nose is crooked on it, right? Oh, that is an absolute great idea.
Always. And you just gave. Oh, we're
no, go ahead.
A great idea for grandparents to give their adult children: refurbish a toy for them.
Oh. Wonderful idea. And because a lot of grandparents love woodworking and that kind of, I know that my stepfather absolutely adores it. Jeanette, you and everyone, follow her on Instagram. You won't be disappointed. We'll be back with more right after this.
Kids these days, people say we lack initiative.
And technology, that we're all addicted. Kids these days, we hear that we only care about ourselves. Apparently, we're lazy.
And don't seem to have any sense of independence.
Actually, kids these days are facing a lot.
Because the world has changed, and so have our health issues. Kids these days, we could really use your help. Join CHIO in our biggest fundraising campaign ever to transform pediatric care.
Public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
Get front row seats to Music and Beyond's unforgettable summer festival. Experience world-class concerts, mesmerizing performances, and much more. Music and Beyond presents a new season on Rogers TV.
Where's you? Join me, holistic chef Daniela Croco, for season 4 of Simply Cooking by Chef, right here on Rogers TV.
Unbelievable. You just never see that. What a shot. Scores! The OHL on Rogers TV.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Just quickly talking gardening with my next guest, and you're like, Derek, like winter's around the corner. Why are we talking gardening? Because bringing plants into your home makes such a huge difference. There are so many benefits, and you can actually help someone in our community by helping donate one of these beautiful. What do you call these?
We call them the healthcare planter.
The healthcare planter. There you go. Michelle Gauthier, President and CEO of the Forget for a Moment Foundation, and Martine Jaworski, owner of M. Jaworski Landscape Design, a medical advisor, and a board member for the foundation. Welcome. Great to have you both here.
Thank you very much.
Michelle, let's talk about the inspiration behind this program.
Well, the foundation, our founder, Janine Lafrenière, came up with this idea during the pandemic. Okay. We were doing green walls, but during the pandemic, she said, maybe we should offer planters. And we said, sure, let's do it. So we went out, we bought one, we offered it to a long-term care facility, and then they came back and they said, but we'd like it on wheels, and we'd like it to go up and down.
Right.
And I said, okay, we're going to go and buy one of those. Guess what? They didn't exist.
Right.
So then we got looking into it, and after 3 years, we now have a model which we call the Jasma Healthcare Planter, which you have here, which goes up and down, wheels around, the wheels can lock, and it's also watered from underneath.
Really?
So you don't need to put the water in. There's an opening there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right? And you put the water in there, and then it comes from underneath. So, because we had to get this approved by the healthcare facilities.
Right, of
course. To make sure that everything is cautioned. And so our mission is to bring nature indoor for those that can't go outdoor.
Right.
But of course, during the winter, everybody gets the benefit, right?
Right.
The plants are indoor, and you said it. The benefits are there.
Yeah, and you're going to talk about the benefits, Martine, because you're a medical advisor yourself for many, many years. Let's talk about why is it so beneficial to bring plants into your home?
Well, I think everyone knows that nature is good for human beings, right? And for people who are in a hospital or long-term care facility, they can't get outside. Let's say they're confined to a bed or a wheelchair. This brings nature to them. And the 5 main benefits are social interaction, sensory involvement, you can smell, touch, and so on. You get development of memory, ancient memories that people had. They had a wonderful garden when they were younger, they had vegetables or whatever. All those memories come back. And then there's gentle movement and exercise just from using your hands.
Yeah, of course.
And also mood improves a tremendous amount. And so for people who are in a healthcare facility for a prolonged period of time, this is such a mood elevator.
Yeah, no. I was just telling you, we just brought our plants, from the cottage, and we obviously have plants at home too. But now that we even have more, there's just something about it, eh, Michelle? I mean,
definitely.
You've talked about that.
and now we've just distributed the first 30 healthcare planters,
nice.
And thanks to the Ontario Desjardins Credit Union, which made a donation, and other donors together,
right.
and they asked that they be distributed in Ottawa and Eastern Ontario. So we have now distributed 30 of these that are being used, and this one here is from the Royal Mental Health Center.
Okay.
We borrowed it here today.
Nice. Thank you to the Royal.
Yes, and the testimonials that we're getting, and the photos of these planters, because everybody is contributing. I've been to events where the residents are there when they plant it,
right.
and one lady put her hands in the soil and she, I'm alive, my hands are dirty. They don't get to be that dirty too often. So thanks to Desjardins for doing that. And then we have this signage here where we recognize the donor.
Right.
And so, as you said, if someone is interested in making a donation, yes, then we can also do what we say direct donation if they wanted to go to a particular facility or a residence. So this is the spirit of it. And as Martin said, we know that plants are good for you.
Yeah.
Nature is good for you, and that's our goal.
Did you, Martin, I mean, because, you know, you have a business that obviously, landscape design business, are there specific plants that you said, you know, would work better and are easier to maintain?
There's certain plants that actually purify the air.
Right.
And so, there's a list of them. But the other thing that's also very good is that you can grow culinary plants. You can grow little patio tomatoes, patio peppers, strawberries even. You can have an entire culinary planter. In fact, I'm going to donate some plants in the spring for maybe we can wheel the planter in and you can have a taste.
And in fact, Artistic Landscaping, the garden center, collaborated with us, and the recipients received a credit at the Landscape Garden Center, Artistic, and they were able to go in and select their plants and the soil. So it's a community effort. And we're building a community to support the integration and the benefits of these into long-term care and healthcare facilities, because everybody's busy, right? And everybody is very happy about it, but we need the horticultural societies are involved, and so, you know, the master gardeners. So a lot of people need to support this. It's a community.
Yeah, and I like what Michelle said, Martine, is, you know, people getting their hands dirty and you know, provoking, you know, that when
the
you
memories,
said memory to me, it's the first thing that was the one that stood out to me, right? Is everybody, even if you didn't garden, you played in the dirt and in the sand, and those memories must come back, just flooding back to people.
Yes, they activate the memories, and so for seniors who might need a little encouragement to activate the memory part of their brain, this kind of multisensory planter does it. And by the way, there are recent studies showing which parts of the brain are activated by what kind of gardening you're doing.
Really?
Whether you're planting and planting or weeding or harvesting. Certainly when you're harvesting and it's a good harvest, the reward part of your brain gets activated. You can actually see that on brain scans.
Michelle, very quickly, in 30 seconds, if people want to support the program and the project, how do they go about doing it?
Forgetforamoment.org is our website. They can go there, they can look us up, and certainly, you know, we're willing. This is a beginning, and we hope that every long-term care facility gets a healthcare planter.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today. Hey, Tony Greco coming up after the break talking athletics. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with Tony right after this.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Trio Financial Planning, helping individuals and families live today and build for tomorrow. Branton Renovation is pleased to support this episode of Daytime Ottawa. Branton Renovations, Ottawa's award-winning renovations team.
We fought our way through Italy and then headed for Amsterdam, sweeping for Germans along the way. Our worst fear was to catch a bullet in these last hours of the war.
I was 15 when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. More than 100,000 Dutch Jews never came home. Our men were put into forced labor. By 1945, we were starving. The food drops gave us hope. And then the Canadians came.
Before Amsterdam, I couldn't have explained why we were there, all those years away from home, but the Dutch showed us why it mattered.
Papa wanted me to bring some soldiers home to thank them personally, and that's when I first saw Wilf, and I invited him over that afternoon.
Marguerite Blaise married Lieutenant Wilf Gildersleeve. They moved to Vancouver, where they raised 8 children. Today, the Dutch still remember the Canadians who liberated them.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Dustin Design and Drafting, your first step toward building your dream project with a team approach. Ottawa is proudly supported by Mary's Must Read Book Club. Follow Mary on social media at Mary K. Taggart for her latest book club picks.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I don't think he needs an introduction. Everyone knows the name Tony Greco here in the Ottawa community. He is the founder and CEO of TG Athletics, and he joins me here on the show. Welcome back, Tony.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You.
You look great, as usual.
Thank you. You too.
I love the energy. Go, go, go. This is awesome.
And listen, if anyone has more energy than me, it is probably you. And what a journey you've been on. Tell me about the idea behind TG Athletics and why you decided to go sort of this route.
Yeah, so what I did is I furthered my studies in health and fitness. I had all the Grecos here in Ottawa, and I thank the community for that. It was just great, amazing people. And then I went to the University of Minnesota with a guy by the name of Kyle Dietz, who kind of is really evolved into athletic training. Right. And it was just amazing because a lot of the stuff that they teach, they measure and test. So I found it very fascinating because I'm like, this is so amazing because I've been training a certain way for years, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, this kind of makes sense. And so I was just amazed with the studies, and now my main thing is if it hasn't been tested or hasn't been measured, then I don't teach it, because then you're just guessing, right?
Right. So and trends too, right? We see this happen in that athletic world all the time. As all of a sudden somebody's making up new types of exercises and so forth. You know, with the research that you've done, is it going back to the basics, or is it modernizing it? Is it a mix?
Well, it's very goal-oriented. See, like what happens is now the whole aesthetics thing, I think, is kind of overrated. Remember before you used to look at the magazine, like, I want to look like her, I want to look like him, I want the ripped abs. But now it's about being healthy, longevity, not getting older and having this chronic pain and stuff like that. So that's what's key. In order to do that, you do have to change the way you train, because as you know, back in high school, we used to do the buys and the military press and and I mean, then the big chest press, right? And then okay, we're good. But now there's just so much with that, like a lot of stability stuff, a lot of prep stuff. Like I have like some of my athletes pretty much working out barefoot, and people are like, what?
Yeah, you talked to me about that last time you were on the show.
And it makes
is
such
that
a difference.
Grounding you?
It's grounding, and what it does is when you're big toeing grains in the ground, what happens is it puts your body in the proper firing pattern. So your body's like, okay, he's great, and it ankles your ankles and your Achilles, creates that stiffness. So when you're going to your next step, then your brain's like, hey, he's okay, next one. So, because if you have a lot of instability, I mean, like, God forbid your arches of your feet collapse, your knee goes, your hip goes, and then the whole chain just crumbles. That's how people get injured. And I was like, for years, I'm like, what, barefoot? Because when we're in these running shoes, I mean, we lose the flexion because, look, your feet are like this. They're never really apart.
Yeah, of course.
So when you're gripping, you got everything that's so strong, and then it just goes right up the chain that you just feel so much more better when you're doing the exercise.
Yeah, it makes sense. It really does.
Little things like that. Even like speed, like I used to have a lot of my athletes go high knees over a hurdle for over 30 seconds. But it's like, that's more conditioning. So if someone wants to get faster, I mean, I keep them like under 10 seconds. The fastest man in the world runs a 100-meter race under 10 seconds.
Makes sense. You're working with a lot of young athletes nowadays. I know you're working with the Gatineau Olympics.
Yeah.
You know, if we have a viewer watching right now and they have a young sort of, elite athlete or moving into that elite athlete category, they obviously have to train differently than the rest of us. Is that fair to say?
They do, yes. And I've been working with a lot of associations, because what happens, a lot of parents in the Ottawa area have kids in hockey, obviously a national sport, and it's the development and the communication that has to be addressed, because what's happened is a lot of these kids, will go and train, and it's not trainers' fault. They're going to try to do the best they can, but if you haven't kind of expanded your horizons and really looked at the way the game works, then these kids are burnt out. They're not getting proper rest because it's like they're in the car. Okay, mom, dad, we got to go, and then it's like there's a whole element of development that goes into these kids. It's really, really important. So I recommend that parents look into this and do this properly if they want their kid to get the best possible.
Yeah, we were
training.
just watching some of the video that you sent with you working with the Gatineau Olympics, and those. How much of it is mental and how much is the physical side of things as far as you're concerned?
Well, the mental part is you always have to be on. The physical part I always say is about 80%.
Okay.
Because what happens is you have to show up and you have to do it, right?
Right.
I mean, the mental part is always on, but where the mental kicks in is where if you think you can't, you can. If you think you can, you're right. So if you're going up and you're doing that lift because you're in a strength phase, trying to get stronger, a lot of times we fear that. And that happens from an upbringing of our childhood, right? Because we're brought up, don't do that, stop doing that. So it's like that fear factor is instilled in our mind.
Right.
So when we go to lift that bar, we're like, I don't know if I can do this automatically. So that's where you have to change all the time. So, I mean, I've seen people that as soon as they get that bar off the ground, their face lights up, big smiles, and then they believe they can do it, right?
Yeah, because we tend to doubt ourselves oftentimes. I mean, I've told you I've worked with a personal trainer for many, many years, and, he'll add some extra weight, and I'm not going to lie, even to this day, I go, I can't lift that. And then you erase that out of your mind.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You brought your book along with you here, Strong Mind, Lean Body.
Yeah.
What can people find in the book?
Well, the book is all the obstacles that hinder people's positive growth. Again, the doubts, right? It makes you kind of go through these things that have happened in your own life, and you can relate some of the situations and how I got through it, right? So it's like it's your book, really. It's mine, but it's your book.
Yeah. You're taking on new clients all the time, I imagine. People that are watching are probably thinking you only take on sort of those elite athletes. That's not necessarily the case.
No, I'm very grateful. I have a team that works with me, and right now we just want to introduce a lot of the personal training. We do a lot of one-on-one training because, again, we've taken that angle where exercise is now what I call the new medicine and the new lifestyle. Forget about how you look. Let's focus on how you feel and how you're going to age gracefully. And hopefully it's not with a lot of chronic pain. As you get older, you don't need a walker or a cane. And that's kind of like our goal. This is what we're trying to eliminate. And I'm glad that people are understanding that, and with the power of social media and all these professionals coming out saying how great exercise is. I mean, I just happen to be in the field.
Well, and it's a great philosophy to have, right? I mean, all our body types are different. As long as you feel and you look healthy yourself, I mean, that's what's important. TGathletics.com to find out more information. Of course, Tony, you can find him all over social media. We'll be back with more right after this.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Trio Financial Planning, helping individuals and families live today and build for tomorrow. Branton Renovation is pleased to support this episode of Daytime Ottawa. Branton Renovations, Ottawa's award-winning renovations team.
When I was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, I was deteriorating in front of everybody.
All my life I lived with sickle cell. I went through a tragic crisis that put me in a coma for 3 weeks. While I was in there, I received a lot of blood to put me in a healthier state.
I was given the plasma then through IVIG. Even though that happened so long ago, it still has a massive impact on me today.
Thanks to donors, I can live another life.
Because of you, I will be seeing my grandchild.
Hi, I'm Sam LaPrade, host of Ottawa Business Matters. We're going to gather here every single week and speak about business here in the capital. We're going to inspire, influence, and inform.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Dustin Design and Drafting, your first step toward building your dream project with a team approach. Daytime Ottawa is proudly supported by Mary's Must Read Book Club. Follow Mary on social media at Mary K. Taggart for her latest book club picks.
Welcome back to the show. Switching gears here, you may recall my next guest was on quite a few months ago before the Bladder Cancer Canada walk that happened September 21st. It always makes a big impact when it comes to those who are survivors and advocates. And my next guest is just that, a bladder cancer survivor, an advocate, and a volunteer with Bladder Cancer Canada. Hugh Connolly joins me. How are you, Hugh?
I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Nice to have you back. Let's talk about the walk. You and I talked about that in the green room. And you were just saying what an incredible community we have here in Ottawa when it comes to helping out and making an impact, right?
Yeah, it was very successful. Ottawa, I think, was the top fundraiser in Canada, and we had a great day for it with good participation.
Nice. Nice, yeah, and I'm not surprised. We're such a generous community. You have your own story, Hugh. Take me back to, say perhaps some of those first early signs and symptoms that you had.
Yeah, the critical sign is if you have urinated and you all of a sudden discover that instead of yellow, your pee is red.
Right.
And that's a very early indication that there is an issue, and you really have to get to a doctor and get a referral and find out what's going on with your bladder.
And if I remember correctly, Hugh, you said when you first saw those signs, you didn't immediately go somewhere like many men unfortunately do, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
It wasn't until it happened a second time that I jumped on the bandwagon and got in to see my doctor, and then I got a referral, and then they went in with a scope and said, oh yes, you do have bladder cancer, and then the process of treatment started. But if you leave it, the problem is that sometimes it'll advance outside of the bladder, and then you have significantly worse issues. If it's still contained within the bladder, they can take the bladder out along with the cancer,
right,
and you don't have it in other sites in your body.
Yeah, and that's what you went through a long surgery. I think it was about 11 and a half hours, is that about right?
That's correct, because they have to take your bladder out, and then they take a part of your intestine and they form a new bladder and they hook everything back up. And knock on wood, everything works.
So yeah, I mean, the recovery from something like that, take me back, like what was that like? I mean, that is a major surgery, Hugh.
I was really fortunate. There's a super support group in Ottawa, so there were a couple of times where the catheter came out and I just had absolutely no control, and I thought, oh, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah.
And it was useful, very useful, picking up a phone and talking to people who had gone through this. The other thing is, I was reluctant to ask for help, and my daughter went up and down our neighbors and said, look, this has happened. My dad needs help. Could you give him a hand?
Wow.
And people were really good. And a lot of the normal activities that you would normally do, you have to think about your restrictions that are down in the discharge statement.
Right.
The significant one was we weren't supposed to lift.
Oh, okay.
So like groceries, garage doors, gardening.
Yeah.
Shopping, garbage, all of that. You have to recognize that you're going to have to get a hand to do that.
When did you turn to Bladder Cancer Canada? Like, how did you find out about them and their resources?
When I was in the hospital in the pre-operation stage, they said, well, there's a meeting tonight.
Really?
And we went off. My daughter was with me.
Wow.
My daughter and I went off to the meeting, and that was useful because they talked me through what option A was, which was an artificial bladder inside, or a bag, option B, nail you a conduit. And it was people that had lived with both, and so you got an impression of how you would manage one way or the other.
So how do you manage now? Is there any challenges that you have now?
Yeah, there's a funny thing that my grandson always says. I say I have to pee on the clock. I have to basically...
So you have to time it out, and for what reason?
The bladder won't expand the same way a normal bladder is, and if it does, there's a possibility of it getting saggy and non-flexible, and you don't get the urge to pee. So you
I was going to ask about this. So you have no urge whatsoever. So you have to go, what, every 3 hours?
Every 3 hours.
Okay.
So when I set alarms, I have a triathlete watch.
Yeah.
There's an alarm on. And at night, I've got an old iPhone that I set alarms, and I get up every 2.5, 3 hours.
Right. Do you continue to work with Bladder Cancer Canada to this day? Are you still part of a support group?
Yeah. And I've written some documents for them.
Oh, okay.
Sort of saying, look, from a patient perspective, this is what you can expect. This is the supplies you'll need. This is kind of what's happening. You get a medical perspective from the hospital and the doctors, but it's really important to get a patient perspective from people who have lived through that experience. And it's really reassuring, I have to say, that somebody says, look, you're going to get through it. I did, and this is what's going to happen.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think I've talked to you about my own medical situation, and just knowing that other people are going through the same thing and being able to talk to them, it makes the world of difference, right? Sometimes you can feel isolated if you don't realize it, and you've done such a wonderful job, and so has Bladder Cancer Canada. Hugh, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you very much.
BladderCancerCanada.org, by the way, to find out more information, all the resources that are available to you. I'll be back to wrap things up right after this.
For me, the end was just the beginning. I felt I must come. If I did not come at once, it would be too late. And these places that are watered with the best blood of Canada might only be names and memories. I see it in the soldiers, the grief I know so intimately. And I will not abandon these men to it. The isolation wears on me. Slowly, the silence takes over, as if my heart has given out of air. I cannot talk. I can only paint.
For more than 2 years, Mary Ryder Hamilton painted the battlefields of the First World War, creating an unforgettable visual record of service and sacrifices at immense personal cost.
Welcome back to the show. Big thanks to all of our guests. I want to mention again, Melissa Bafounos. If you visit her website, Melissa, BOUFOUNOS.com, you can get that recipe that we didn't get to because we had so much to talk about. But if you're looking at a great beverage, something along the lines of a hot chocolate and turmeric, which turmeric is, by the way, a magical spice. If you don't know much about it, I suggest you do a little bit of research. Big thanks to my good friend Jeanette Ewan for coming back on the show. Some great gift ideas. Don't forget, if you missed a portion of this show, you can watch all of our episodes are up on the Rogers TV YouTube channel. You can check that out and follow Jeanette Ewan on Instagram. She's got great content there on Instagram. If you're interested in helping out the Forget for a Moment Foundation, you can visit their website and make a donation. It's forgetforamoment.org. You can also find them on Facebook. And Tony Greco, if you're looking at changing your lifestyle, and not just physically but mentally, Tony also takes care of the nutrition side of things with you as well. It's tgathletics.com, tgathletics.com. Thanks so much for watching this edition of Daytime, everybody. I'll see you next time.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Hello everyone, my name is Kwadwo Karamantang. I'm an ICU physician here in Ottawa, and I'm so excited to bring to you our latest show, Solving Healthcare with Dr. K. We're gonna tackle some of healthcare's biggest issues, and more importantly, we're gonna talk about ways to leverage preventive health. How do you avoid seeing someone like myself in the intensive care unit? And this show is exclusive on Rogers TV, so please tune in. You guys are gonna love it.
On the next Daytime Ottawa, Jeanette Ewan is back on the show.